Hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 64554637228. And a moment ago, I was just thinking of A Quiet Place. Apparently, they're going to bring out another one, as you might have seen. Looks really interesting. I like it. Definitely going to see it. That said, of course, yeah, I'm just going to say it. So, the father in the movie, at the end of the day, in order to save his kids, he attracts the attention of the bad guy to come kill him. And basically, I was just going to say that that's not a sustainable example to show for your kids. Um, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever to show them that that's what you should do if it turns out that somebody else is in a similar situation. That doesn't work at all. The thing about it is, though, that I guess he had to do it. And, you know, we really need sacrifices in movies. And by sacrifices, I mean someone has to die. Someone has to give their life for for a particular cause, or not even a cause, if they just die. Like I remember watching Dexter. Dexter is a serial killer, and his wife is not his wife. I'm so sorry. Well, actually, he did marry the actress. The actress who played his sister, he did marry her, and then they got divorced, which I thought was so sad. But anyway, the point is that did they get married? Anyway, she died at the end of it, and I it broke me up because if anybody should be dying, it should be Dexter, but he lived. But I guess that was the thing of it. Quote unquote innocent person died, but I should have looked and seen the writing on the wall because she killed an innocent person. Um, and therefore she killed an innocent person, innocent quote unquote, not a nice person, but she killed an innocent person in order to save him. He was going to be exposed as a serial killer, so she uh, killed the person to save him, save his who he was, so he wouldn't go to jail and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, that killed me that she died. But if she didn't, it probably wouldn't have made as big an impact on me as it did. I can remember it and I can tell you about it. If everybody had gone off into the sunset, I probably would not really remember it. Um, I think for the sake of the show, maybe this is something they want to have a good ending to the show, an impactful ending. Um, but obviously, it kind of hurts everybody who's seen it. And well, that's the point. That's what you're trying to do. But what I mean by it is that if they had given us a happy ending, there was nothing else. It's not like okay, there's gonna be another Dexter or continuation or something. The guy who plays Dexter is like, no, I'm done. Maybe when he gets old and he has tax issues or something else, he might decide that he might want to start back playing Dexter. That's what happens to people when they have money troubles. Then they start thinking, oh, well, maybe why not? So, but anyway, back to A Quiet Place. Sacrificing yourself, and this is the thing. If he wanted to attract attention, he could have thrown a rock, off into the distance, so that the bad creature would have followed it. He could have thrown lots of rocks. Um, that would have been sustainable. You can throw a lot of rocks, even if it's dirt. You can throw a lot of dirt and not attract attention. Um, and that would have been a better example. But of course, sacrifice, human sacrifice, makes a huge impact on us. And that goes all the way back even to, the Mayas, and, probably in Stone Age, people used to sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice, I imagine, is your kids or children. And way, way back, people used to do that. I mean, even if you think of Abraham, God gave Abraham, sorry about bringing in the Bible, I don't know the Gita and these other holy books that well. Well, the Torah, which is the Old Testament, covers Islam, Christianity and Judaism, so it's good for something. But I wish I really did know more about the other books, but at least I know about, the Bible. But Abraham, God promised him a son and promised him that he would have so many descendants. And that was a big deal because nowhere in the Old Testament was anybody talking about, living forever in heaven. So the best you could do is, or ask for, is to have a whole bunch of kids. And eventually, one day, God gives him this kid and says, Yo, didn't I tell you I'd hook you up? But then, the very next thing that God does, and I think that this has to do with the fact that maybe whoever wrote that part of the Bible, maybe they wanted to draw a line, to make a distinction between the Israelites and everybody else, to say that, okay, we don't sacrifice people anymore. You could say that they don't sacrifice people anymore. I mean, stoning a woman to death for adultery, really? An eye for an eye? Well, that's not as bad. But stoning somebody to death, how about just banishing people? You're banished. But stoning people to death, and that was even happening in the New Testament. Luckily, I guess Jesus said, okay, let's put an end to that. But yeah, God was telling Abraham, essentially, to sacrifice his son that he just gave him after so many years of waiting, sacrifice his son back to God. And at the last minute, God miraculously presents another sacrifice, an animal sacrifice, and he didn't have to sacrifice his son. So, but at the end of the day, that is the greatest sacrifice, isn't it? And when you look at Christianity, that's exactly that kind of craziness. That's what Jesus represents, right? Jesus represents the sacrifice of your own son. He's the Son of God, he's God. God sacrifices himself, his son, for the sins of mankind. Don't get me started on that when God could have just said, hey, I guess he wanted, I don't think anybody really had any overarching, hey, let's tie this all together in a particular way kind of thing, because I don't recall anybody being sacrificed, in creation, the beginning of creation or anything like that. God just started this whole sacrifice thing after he kicked those guys out of the Garden of Eden. And then he's like, hey, give me your animals, give me your plants, and show me you love me kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe you could have had Adam and Eve sacrificing stuff in the Garden of Eden. That might have helped somebody. Maybe given them an idea that, hey, the importance of stuff. But no, only when they came out, they decided to train them in the art of sacrificing stuff. But yeah, there's a movie that I saw. What's this guy's name? Oh my God, from SNL. Yeah, I just saw him the other day. Anyway, Will Smith. Will Ferrell? Will Ferrell. Right. So Will Ferrell, he is a real life person, a character in the story, but he also seems to be like a brought to life character of someone, an author in his same reality that's writing a book, and who intends at the end of the book to kill him. He eventually gets to meet through a third party, somebody who had some Me Too accusations, so he's no longer acting anymore. The guy who was in a dress from Tootsie, I can't remember his name, but yeah, the guy who played Tootsie introduces Will Ferrell's character to the author who is writing his life, and of course the author, having met her creation, but it doesn't seem like it's a creation because it's just a real person like her whose life she's affecting, decides to write the book in such a way that, well, to begin with, she intends to kill him off. Now, when the third guy, he's a professor, reads the book where he's going to kill off the person, kill off Will Ferrell, He's like, oh my God, this is a fantastic book. I'm sorry, you have to die. So that's how important human sacrifice is. And I mean, even at this point, right? Even at this point, when we've gone away with Roman Colosseum and human sacrifice, fake human sacrifice is still important to us. Even if it's fake, it still impacts us, in movies. Like, well, I guess it didn't really work out too well in The Matrix, now that I'm thinking about it. But just so you know, in Will Ferrell's case, uh, he didn't want to die, as most of us don't. So they convinced the author not to kill him off. The professor read the book without him dying and said, you know what? It's a good book, but it's not a great book. But, I can see how you'd want to live. And she writes the ending and stuff, and it lets him go on with his life. But yeah, she gives up on a great book so that he can live his life. Um, because it was going to be a kind of one of those books where he was a boring person and then he finds love and then as he's crossing the street he dies. But as she does it, as he's crossing the street, he just gets into a really bad car accident and it wasn't as good because yeah, it hits us when an innocent dies. And I suppose that, an evil person dying, we don't really care so much, right? But an innocent, that is what's important to us. Just like I was saying in, yeah, when an innocent person dies, that's that has value, you know. The father died. The father is doing so much for his children. He takes care of his family and has taken care of his family. That's why they've survived. And he didn't do anything to deserve this end, but ultimately he gets, he's sacrificed. So, yeah, isn't it funny that even though we're not in the Colosseum days or we're not in looking for the sun to rise tomorrow in order to sacrifice people and rip out their hearts, it still is important enough for us to continue that kind of tradition. Anyway, guys, wish me lucks. You can like, unlike, you can comment and tell me why you did or not, and subscribe or share. Peace.